Gentlemen, once again, good evening. This is Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, coming to you live from the streets of Orange County, California. Today is Thursday, August 21st, 2019. I want to thank you for joining us in this drive time broadcast this late afternoon, early evening, or even morning, wherever you are out there. The Amazon. I'm not talking about Mr. Bozo's company that's taken Walmart by surprise. I'm talking about the Amazon rainforest. That's right. It's a tragedy that such a beautiful creation is being abused, right? And it is being abused intentionally to push an agenda, folks. That's right. This is Joe Briano, P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California 92834. On the web at thefullertoninformer.com, wi-fi-dangers.com, 5gdangers.com, celltowerdangers.com, Disney666.com, NASAfraud.com. Contact is joeimbriano777 at gmail.com. All right, folks, so what the heck is going on in South America? What is going on in the Amazon? What is going on with the rainforest? Why is it on fire? Well, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, folks, all right, we got a problem with the audio. Can you guys hear? Can you guys hear us? All right, hang on for a second. We got a problem with the audio here. Now can you hear us? Yes?
I still got you loud.
All right, listen, you need to either take your mute off. We've got a guest on the line, by the way. It might be draining the audio, so make sure you turn your speaker all the way up there. My guest is an anonymous caller. I don't want to reveal his identity for various reasons. But before we bring him on, I want to talk about what the heck is going on in the Amazon, folks. We've been taught that the Amazon the rainforests are the lungs of the earth, right? And the official explanation for what's going on in the Amazon right now with these fires are several causes. They're claiming that it is a result of deforestation as they trim and cut back the trees for agriculture. The common way they deal with clearing the land is they cut the trees down and let the wood dry out, and then they burn it, right? And that's for growing crops. And the second thing is to clear the land for livestock like cattle. And the third thing that they're blaming this on is, you guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, climate change, right? Climate change. They're saying that climate change is causing the fires. That's right. Even though it gets about 200 inches of rain a year over there, it's on fire because of climate change. It's on fire, and it's being allowed to get. I can tell you, it's all about climate change and how evil it is to farm and have agriculture and raise livestock, because when you look at the articles concerning what is going on in the Amazon right now, if you thumb through a little bit of it, all of a sudden you'll get an advertisement for 5G communication systems. That's right. That's right, folks. You want to know what's going on in other parts of the world? Well, you get 2 pages of it, and then you've got to look at the ads to kill yourself with the weaponized technology. Ladies and gentlemen, the Amazon rainforest are not the lungs of the earth. The oceans are the lungs of the earth. I'm not saying we can afford to lose all our forest. But what I am telling you is that we're not going to lose all our oxygen. 80% of the world's oxygen comes from the ocean, folks. That's right. And 2/3 of the Earth's surface is covered with water, and there are all kinds of photosynthetic organisms in the ocean that make the air we breathe. Did it ever occur to you that where you live in the wintertime, when there are no leaves on the trees, you still have air to breathe? Where is that oxygen coming from if where you live, all the trees have dropped their leaves and it's snowing? Don't fall for this. It's a tragedy that the governments of Brazil and other countries are allowing the slash and burn to continue. They're acting like they can't control this. And then it's being hyped up in the media to push an agenda. The reality is, the international bankers that control the economic engines that have created a servitude debt system to these third world countries are directly responsible for these people pushing out of the cities trying to survive in the bush, if they were not suffering from currency manipulation and fractional reserve banking and the IMF dirty laundry money business, maybe these people wouldn't have to be so destructive and could live and let live. But oh no, they're blaming it on CO2 emissions. And by the way, the more smoke that goes into the air, the faster the trees grow. I want to bring on our guest right now. Are you ready to discuss these issues with the audience? Do we have an audio connection to my guest? Can you speak up, please?
I can hear you well right now, Joe.
All right, go right ahead and dive in. We've got hundreds of people listening to us that will turn into tens of thousands over the course of a week.
As far as this Amazon being on fire, this is already a long-standing agenda. When they put this puppet Brazil president, people were right away warning this guy wants to destroy the rainforest, and a quicker way to do it is to burn it down. I agree that it isn't the lungs of the earth, but it's a vital part of the ecosystem wherever it's at. For that part of, I mean, the Amazon is huge, and for that part of the earth, that's part of its, it could be like the spleen for that part of the earth, or if you want to liken it to a.
We need to get your volume up. Turn your volume all the way up and speak as loud as you can.
Okay, hold on. Let me try something. Is it any better now?
Keep talking and we'll see what they say. I can't really tell on my end. It's the audience commenting here.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people within the so-called truth media that have exposed this, I would say, for over 2 decades now, that they want to drive people, first of all, off the land and all the spots where where human beings can live comfortably as far as temperatures are concerned, off the grid. So everybody on Earth has already been cataloged by the Catholic Church. There's about 100 tribes on the Earth that are the only free human beings because they haven't been cataloged, and about 85 of them live in the Amazon. So they definitely want to drive them out because they want to log everybody or snuff you out. And all the American Indians weren't logged. All the people that they genocided were not logged and were not going to allow themselves to be logged, so they genocided them. Originally, the original logged people on planet Earth were in Egypt, and they were logged in the Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead was not a book of evil spells. It was a book of dead human beings, because once you become Chantel property, you're now considered dead to them. That's why they call us the Walking Dead, the Sheep, the any other names. So that I would say this is just a multifaceted agenda. For one, to drive the people off the land, to take away the land for one, so other people can't go out there and seek asylum from these Babylonian metropolitan areas that we're all being forced into, where it's really easy just to mass cull and mass medicate and mass indoctrinate and every other thing that they can do to people when there's that big of a conglomeration in one area. If we just spread out, they have no chance. They would have to come door to door. It would never work. Who would they pay to come door to door?
Boy, do they play dirty. They're burning up the United States and flooding out. They're doing the same thing here. You bring up an interesting point about the Catholic Church. Tell us about the soul print at birth in the hospital.
Yeah, well, basically when they're cataloging you, they're doing it based on their papal bull of Unum Sanctum, which means the Catholic Church owns the earth and all the souls on it. So then they start cataloging everything that they own. They're kind of like making an inventory. So as you get into this world, which is a water world, they're ruling over it with admiralty law, which we call the law of water. So when we come to our birth, just like a ship comes to the berth at the dock, you come to your birth from your mother's water, and then when a ship comes to the dock, it has to present the dock with the certificate of all the cargo that's on there in case something catches fire or something happens. They got to know what's inside that cargo to know how to deal with it, and that's called a birth certificate, like a birth BERTH, and you hand over that birth certificate over to the dock, and now they hold it there as as proof of everything that you got on there. So when you come to your birth at the doctor, they have a birth certificate and they have all the cargo that you came with: blue
All right,
eyes, brown hair.
I'm gonna stop you right here, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to listen to every word that comes out of this man's mouth, and listen to it extremely carefully. It's very important. This man has an incredible understanding of the spell casting and trickery nature of the English language that we're all under the control of through a system of legal entities and processes that most people aren't aware of, that is symbolized by that gold tassel around the flag. Go ahead and continue, please.
Okay, so then, now when you have your birth certificate, it's got all the cargo on it that you came with. You came with blue eyes, brown hair. You came from this lineage of genetics on your mom's side. So it's got all your statistics on that certificate, just like the birth certificate of a ship does. So now, they get the baby and they put the carbon, from the stamp, they put the little carbon ink on the bottom of its foot, and they stamp the baby's soul onto the birth certificate. Now, allegorically, the baby's soul is already owned before it's ever set foot on the living ground and made that connection to the real Mother Earth. So now its parents are now the Catholic Church, actually, and then they rent out the child to the mom and dad. And once the mom and dad sign that birth certificate, they become the rents or parents, because they are now paying rent on the child, which was originally theirs before they signed it over. But now, since the Catholic Church owns it, they got to pay rent on it, which means you got to pay for the food, clothes, roof over their head, and whatever else they need. So now you're the pay rent on that child, which was originally actually your. And then the child goes through its life. Then it gets sent to school, where it's school. If you were to go fishing and you were going to catch fish one by one, you'd need to drop a line. It would take a long time. You'd have to wait for it to pick at the line and whatever. But if you school the fish, put them all in one spot, then you could just throw a net, pick them all out one time very quickly, very easily. So that's why we're schooled, so we're easier to pick off. And they catch us in things like nets, like the internet or the World Wide Web, which is a net that a spider makes. So a lot of different nets, and then they have like the network television, all these different networks that are the grid, or the web, or what you would call the matrix. So we're kept under that, and with that birth certificate, they basically turn us into ships. So since we're all operating on the law of water, the ships are on the water, so they're subjugated to that admiralty law. So we're ships. So basically, when we get together, you call it a partnership. If you can't say something, it's censorship. If you're leading people, it's leadership. And you could just replace the word ship with human being, and you'll see how it makes sense. And then, since we're ships, when we travel around, ships pass from port to port. So since we're ships, when we travel around, we need a passport, because we're passing from port to port since we're ships. And then when they talk about this law of water, it's actually effective on land. So we're on land, but we're being subjugated to the law of water. So they have turned the land into the sea. So we're subjugated to the law of the sea or water, but it's not actually water. Like, water is actually money. That's why they say when you can't pay for stuff, you're drowning in debt, or or money goes through your hands like water. So this is the law of money, and that's the only reason that they started all these governments and all that stuff, was because of money. They printed the first money 7,000 years ago, right after they incorporated the first government, which is what all these other governments we call countries are currently incorporated under. So it's just a pyramid that started under the law of money. And when you have on the earth, before they started damming everything up and creating these fake lakes which cause quakes, and just basically messing with the earth's natural circulatory system, you create dead water when you do that, because water is alive, and you need motion for life. Movement is life. So when they started damming stuff up, they're kind of creating dead water. And it's the same with money. If we print some Fullerton and former dollars, nobody's going to use them. If you go to the store and try to pay with it, they're going to laugh at it when they see your face on it, Joe. They'd be like, wait a minute, hold on. This is your face. This is ridiculous. But they will accept paper with pictures on it with somebody else's face on it. Why? So the reason is because that money's been put into circulation and it's now alive. So on the planet, when you look at water that's in motion, there's always banks on either side of it, the river bank. So we have banks all over the place. You see a bank on every corner. They're putting a new one up every corner. They're like liquor stores at this point. And all they're doing is moving the money around from bank to bank, which brings it to life because we're using it. So, that water that's flowing between the banks is the current or the currency. And that's what we're using to store our energy. And so the only thing that has any value on this planet is human labor and life. The animals and human beings, just life in general. And our labor, we're forcing animals to do labor, but human labor is actually the only thing worth anything. So they're fooling us to store our labor energy or our energy, in fact, into these pieces of paper with pictures on it, which are worthless. And originally, when they printed the first money, it was clay tablets, which are made out of, dirt and water, which is also worthless and, plentiful. You wouldn't ever just go to somebody and give them a piece of paper without any.
Yeah, but back in the day when they started printing those tablets, the people were able to go and spend a couple nights on the Riviera with those tablets. They were able to exchange them for nice dinners and accommodations thousands of years ago, didn't they?
Yeah, when they first instituted them, it was to quell a rebellion because humanity was going to rebel, and the control structure said there was no money at that point. It was just slavery by physical force. And then the rebellion was about to come, and they knew they would lose. So they said, hey, listen, forget about, we're just going to give you these clay tablets after a day's work, and then you could go work as hard as you want and accumulate more of them, or be really lazy and get almost none. But you'll be able to trade them for, good food. And actually, at that time, the women that were enslaved that they picked out, they were choosing them as prostitutes. So the men that were working and got these clay tablets would be able to go trade in their clay tablets to have sex with the prostitutes. So that's how prostitution is actually the first occupation ever, because they were the first people ever getting paid by clay tablets from actual slaves. So they were slaves collecting money from other slaves, which means that it's the first occupation. And it's still going strong. It's changed a lot, but that occupation is still, what's that porn industry going at? Like how many billions of dollars a year? It's still pretty big.
So as far as the thing that always fascinates me is the spell casting potential of the English language, the way the words carry meaning and power and actually are a form of spell casting. And what do they teach the children? They teach them spelling. And what do they do in Hollywood? They cast the characters. Tell us about this play on words that is playing us down the river past the bank on the ship of fools. Tell us about this.
Right, yeah, they got all the English language, by the way, is, from what I understand, a complete phonetic inversion of Hebrew, or like a pre-Hebrew dialect, meaning phonetically the vibratory vibration is actually inverted. So we're saying the opposite of what we're intending to say. So now that we know all these spells, because they've taught us how to spell, just never taught us the meaning of these spells and how to use them. And yes, they are casting a bunch of characters, and then they're casting a lot of spells. You got the newscast, the simulcast, the telecast, the broadcast. They're all casting spells, of
course.
Comcast. Yeah, of course. It's right in the name. It's hilarious. So when I see these things, I'm like, okay, let's see what kind of spells these guys are casting. Oh, what do you know? It's the same spells the other ones are casting. So, it's kind of, they're triangulating us. We're literally in an octagon, and like humanity's inside the middle of an octagon, and every one of the 8 sides is individual, and they're just moving the chains a little bit and just squeezing us tighter and tighter from all directions, almost imperceptibly each time. So we're like the frog in the pot, where it just it's nice and warm, and then before you know, the frog's boiling and it's too late to get out. So this is the whole goal, and they want to go from point A to Z as fast as possible, but it has to be imperceptible so we don't rebel, because that'll squash their whole plans. That's the whole everything. All the spells and everything is to quell rebellions. That's all it is. The whole monetary system's a quell. They just don't want us to realize that we need to rebel, because that's our only. It doesn't even need to be a physical rebellion. If we wait long enough, it'll have to be. But right now, if we just all pull back, everybody just stop. I mean, we could do so much damage by the end of the week if everybody just went and claimed on their, on their W-4s exempt and went and pulled all their money out of the bank. It would, first of all, after about one day, people would realize that they'd be going to the banks and they couldn't get any money because the banks don't have the money. They have already spent it long ago. You go try to pull out 10 grand out of a bank, they'll tell you to come back tomorrow. They're like, we don't have it yet. What do you mean you don't have it? So if we just did that, because these payroll companies were instituted so the government could steal all year round. They used to just take taxes once a year, and then they would figure out how much they could steal based on April 15th, and then now people are getting automatic deductions out of their check every week through payroll and all this stuff. So this is all just to fund themselves kind of throughout, just throughout the year. I got a little bit off course there on the spell casting, but
No, that's okay, because the monetary system is intertwined and inexorably linked with all of this spell casting and all of these curses and
and listen to
wizardry.
what you just said. You just said money, one eye, one eye.
One
and
eye.
then you look on the back of the money, there's
Look at your one eye on the top of the 13 level pyramid, right? With the phoenix bird with 13 arrows in the quiver and 13 stars above that, and the 1776 in Roman numerals at the base, referring to not the formation of the United States, but the founding of the Illuminati on the island of Bavaria. So yeah, it's like everything is. Yeah, hey, let's talk a little bit about Saturn worship. That is something that is so ubiquitous. This issue with Saturn worship, and people are completely oblivious to it. Tell us about what the heck is going on with these black cubes and these Nike logos and all this stuff. Go for it.
Well, the way our reality works is this light matrix is all working on spiral toroidal fields. So the word, or the word of God, first there was the word, is the sound or the scalar energy that's cohering all the light that we see in our physical reality and in the dimensions that we cannot perceive, in angelic realms and such. So when they're putting out, first of all, the rings of Saturn is your Nike logo. If you look at a picture of Saturn with the rings, you can only see it going around a little bit. Just take away Saturn, and then you'll see that's the Nike logo. Just take away the planet and leave the rings, you'll see that's the Nike logo. So the contention is that the rings of Saturn are not like ice and rocks and stuff spiraling around. They're actually like glass office cubicles for beings that would be about 50, 60 foot tall, which I would say have people look on Rodeo Drive at the Louis Vuitton store for an example of what that would be like. They have a statue of that right there and hanging out onto the street. So there's
what is on Rodeo Drive again? Tell the audience.
There's like a 60-foot tall purely red man that is like walking out of the store onto the sidewalk, and the store's got a really like a 3-story in the front. It's like a 3-story storefront. So they're kind of symbolizing, their Satan or adversarial being with that. And so anyhow, to get back to the Saturnian rings, they're antennas. They're sending a frequency that's squaring the circles of our reality. So they're putting squares around our toroidal light matrix reality. So they're able to create an illusion, or the Lucifer matrix that it's been called. So the way they're using the cube is because a cube actually, how would you call it? It nullifies electromagnetic frequencies and sound specifically. So when you go to like an auditorium, you want the back to be round, because otherwise you have a lot of dead spots. So for electromagnetism, the cube is the worst. one of the worst. I mean, the only thing worse than the cube is the trapezoid. That's why it's called the trapezoid. It's the soul trap. So when you look on the back of the pyramid on the dollar and you see the pyramid, they've actually removed the eye or the pineal gland off of it, symbolizing how our pineal glands have been removed. And what is left when you take the eye off? The flathead top pyramid is actually a trapezoid, so they're leaving you the trapezoid at the bottom. They're the eye above looking down at us. We're the trapezoid because we're trapped. We don't know what the heck's going on this planet, and we're actually feeding and building our own prison up around us. With our money, labor, energy, and what. And here's another one about the spell casting that just reminded me. So, what are we putting our attention on? So, where attention goes, energy flows. So your actual focusing your mind on something is actually spiritual money or currency. That's why they call it paying attention. What do you mean paying? Paying is when you pay for something. So you're paying attention or you're spending your time. So what do you mean spending your? So it's all like, that's why they say like time is money, but people don't understand.
Now you're starting to dovetail into a very, very important area, and that is how these demonic entities are actually factory farming our fear and perversion through this broadcast network called Hellivision, this black scrying mirror, this psychotronic electronic Ouija board. So as we're paying attention to the vile filth and the putrefaction of morality and the inversion of love and all of the godly good things, tell us what they're doing as they're hovering above our literal homes and businesses and strip clubs and all these horrible places as they feed on this energy. Tell us about this.
These beings out of the fifth density photonic light compression have turned away from the light of God or source. So they're no longer connected, but we are. We're just at a very low level of awareness and spiritual evolution to understand that. So since they've turned away from the light of God, which is your eternal energy, they're now needing to siphon energy from somebody else that's connected. So beings are not apt to just do that. So they had to find beings that were oblivious to it. So they found, the Garden of Eden here because humanity was existing in a state of what you would call naivety, but there was no evil around, so it didn't matter. You could be as naive as you wanted. Nobody was going to pull one over on you. So they corrupted that. To get back to your original question.
Well, yeah, because like in Ephesians 6 in the Bible, it talks about these forces of wickedness and high places, these spiritual forces of wickedness in high places, and these are the ones that are ruling over us.
Correct. So since they've turned away from that high vibratory light of source, they can only consume like very low frequencies as food. So we're eating sandwiches or apples, bananas, whatever for energy, which the plants are petrifying for us. They can only consume really low frequency energy as food. The lowest frequency is fear, so that would be like a gold mine for them. And all the subsets under fear would be like hate, jealousy, all those feelings are basically subsets of fear. So they feed off that.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand what he just said. Like I've been saying, there's a reason why these media companies, the movie industry, the music industry, the press, the newspapers, the magazines, the video games, all make us emanate and mass produce fear and perversion and evil and wickedness. It is not because they're trying to make money off of it. They're trying to make us pay attention and feed them what they can metabolize. Go ahead and continue.
Exactly. And money is, people say everything, it's all about money. No. Money is a tool of control. They're just printing that. If it was all about money, it'd be actually something that was worth something. But the only thing that's worth anything is our spiritual energy. That's why that's being farmed
and by the way, the cross defeated the cube, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are not aware. All right, go ahead and continue.
Let me explain how that the cross. The real cross is equidistant on all four sides. The Catholic cross, which has the longer bottom, actually folds up into the Saturnian cube. So if you would just take the center of the cross as one unit, the top leg as one unit, both side to side one unit, and the bottom is two units. You fold that up, it's a cube. You can watch on YouTube that how that graphic works. But the real cross was not, that's why they crucified Yeshua on a Saturnian cross instead of, they wouldn't do it on what people call a Celtic cross or the Rosicrucian cross. They're also using it. The Knights Templar had that same cross, which of course Templars and then infiltrated them, and now it's evil groups mostly. And that's also the Swiss flag where all these guys are hiding as bankers. It's also the Red Cross logo. It's also the other.
It's everywhere. So
it's also the other English flag. So
it's like unbelievable. So back to this mass harvesting operation they got going on us. I really feel like if we would just stop feeding these demonic scum with mass producing this dark, low level demonic energy, we win.
Right. That's why they have their lower level, how would you say, cohorts putting us in all this fear with all these wars and false terrorism and this and that. So they have their agents here, amongst us, creating havoc or chaos, and then they're going to give us their version of order, which is a Nazi police state, easier energy harvest. The more they conglomerate us into these cities, I'm pretty sure that this 5G is going to go two-way. It's actually going to emit a frequency, but it's also probably going to be able to suck in one as well. I don't think they would just extinguish. There's got to be a way that they can harvest more energy from it. So they don't want to kill us all off because they lose a lot of energy. So there's some kind of play there.
And I want to make a point about all this talk about these mass extinction events. Ladies and gentlemen, number one, they don't need our money. They print the stuff. Number two, we're not going to wake up one day and they're not going to kill 100 million people. Folks, this is a farm. They've got a farm going, and you are the cattle. All right? And the food that they want, besides your organs and your children, is what comes out of the most powerful thing God has ever created in the entire universe, and that is the human mind. You need to control what comes out of your mind because they have built receptor systems all over the place to absorb it and to live on it. And they cannot handle love. They hate love. That's why they killed Jesus Christ. They hate love. They hate truth. They hate righteousness. They hate courage. They hate integrity. They hated all that's good. They love the darkness.
Right, and they breed. They're emasculating everybody, so people will be more in fear. Men are being turned into basically women, and women are being turned into a perverted type of I don't even know what with a man's brain. So they're trying to empower themselves in a male type of vibration. This whole energy harvest is a left brain, male dominated energy harvest. That's why it's a sun cult, because the sun is the male, and then the moon would be the female, and the earth is the female. That's why they call it Mother Earth. So it's a male energy. That's why all these men are raping everybody, including the little boys. So we're in a very, very male, left brain dominated, perverted,
very dangerous place to be as a society.
Right, it's a cult. That's why they call it culture, because they've created this culture that we're all supporting right now. We're in a cult. Collectively, we're a cult. We're in their cult. We were already created by the Creator, and then they came here and made us into their image, meaning their satanic mindset. Most people are in a completely satanic mindset and supporting all these satanic institutions around without even knowing what Satanism is or anything like that. They're just, going about their day. But that's the whole point of us getting us all as a whole society, as a cult, to be in their mindset. Then they really are. We're turning the wheels for them. They're kind of just, the shepherds guiding the sheep. Don't go that far. Go back into the middle.
Well, I'll
sheep.
tell you, we are running out of time with stopping this agenda because they have literally, they're very successful in terms of creating this culture and controlling the thoughts and the groupthink of the masses. I've never seen a time in history where they have actually gotten so far, and literally the technocracy that has been erected. We have a very narrow window of opportunity to leverage this technocracy and our free use of it, as we're doing right now, against it. What advice would you have? We've got to end this broadcast. We're going on 35 minutes here. What advice would you have if there were just two simple things every single person listening could do to stop this? What would it be?
Well, like I said before, if you want to stop a monster, you can't feed it on the porch every day. So right now we're feeding the monster by, paying taxes on our weekly, getting it deducted out of our check um, and having all our money in the bank, which isn't actually yours. But people never look at the fine print. When you go put your money in the bank, you actually signed it over. It's theirs now. You're just a lien holder on it. You could come claim it anytime you want, but it's not yours. That's why they can loan it out 1,000 times over. That's why they don't got your money. So if everybody this is what happened in Greece when they lied to us on the media and said Greece went bankrupt. No, it didn't. The people realized the government was a complete criminal scam.
They tried to all get out. They tried to get their dough.
And so then they got to claim, it went, Greece is bankrupt. No, it isn't. The people were fine. They had all the money. The banks just went bankrupt. So they try to fool us into, okay, they tell us in school, the economy, we got to, the economy what is the economy? The economy is the profits of the most evil, rich corporations. So why would we be worried about supporting what their profits are? The economy should be, how are the people living? What is the quality of life for the average person? And what's the gap between the rich and the poor? And how many are up in that rich or how many are up in that poor? That's what the economy should mean. But it actually, so we're literally supporting this economic model which enslaves and destroys us. So I mean, we're literally building our own prison. We're working our own prison, and we're our own we're our own prison guards. We're doing this all.
And we're training our children to fill the positions as they vacate by all the aforementioned occupational institutions and hirelings. It's absolutely amazing. We're training our children to be police and doctors and lawyers and nurses and legislators. All these things to keep this criminal prison induction nightmare plantation that is about to be engulfed in a electronic psychotronic web going.
Right. I mean, we have these folks who are doing this at the top. They're techno sorcerers. They know a lot about. They know all the esoteric knowledge that predates all the religions that they put out, but they're also very highly technologically advanced, and that's been highly occult. That's the most occulted information there is the technology. I mean, the nuclear bomb isn't the most secretive information. There's levels above that. So what is that? And they've been hiding this stuff since the 40s. Actually, they killed Nikola Tesla, and they stole all his notes, and then they started basically reverse engineering what he was doing and building it out to use against us when he was trying to create freedom for humanity, and he knew that if we could have free energy, that we would be free because we wouldn't be under these grids. So then,
it's amazing when you think back. Just take a step back in time and go back to the mid 1800s. Wires were like, who in the world would even conceive of a wire? I mean, he was working on harnessing energy and just broadcasting it and having it available free to everyone. And what did they do, right? And Edison, ripped him off, and they built him up like a hero when he was nothing but a crook. And but the reality is that what we face right now, we can still win this thing. We need their weakness is the technology, And we need to wake up and realize that the technology is weaponized, and there are steps that we can take to stop this technology's control over us. And I will go back to my point that television is probably the worst thing you could have in your life. I mean, would you agree that that's probably the most potent weapon they have still to this day?
The black cube monolith. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That black scrying mirror, black cube monolith. That everybody ever notice they're square, they're black. I mean, come on, right?
You could look at Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, and one scene in the movie, he's got all the apes, and they all come around to just a big black monolith. It looks like a big iPad or iPhone. It's got nothing on either side of it or whatever, but it's just shiny black, and they're all looking at it in amazement. Now, why did he put that in there in 1966 before any iPads or flat screen TVs or iPhones or anything were even imagined for another, 30, 40 years? What was that doing there?
Well, yeah, it's like Thomas Dolby's album, The Age of Wireless, and back in like 1980, and she blinded me with science. I think the law of the universe requires that they tell us what they're going to do to us, so they can pull a Pontius Pilate and wash their hands of the horrific deeds that they undertake, and all this stuff. Like I've said many times, the truth is in the movies, and the lies are in the news, folks. And that's kind of what we have to start looking at to discern what they're going to do to us.
And they tell you that because the bullshit's coming out of the black screen and the truth is coming out of the white screen. The reason why we're reading black letters on white pages is because that's Black's law, and that's actually backlit, and we're not supposed to be looking at anything backlit. It's supposed to be a reflection of light from the sun. So if you were to read something with a black background with white letters on it, it's very pleasing to the eyes. They don't get tired. It's conducive to the human form, whereas the inversion of that, black on white, is it feels like it's backlit. That's why your eyes get tired looking at that book, because the book is reflecting so much white, and you're trying to focus on the black, which actually has no color. It's actually way harder to focus that way. So many things just very subtly have been inverted like that and shown. If you look at it, just the Freemasonic floor, you go into the Freemasonic lodges, they always have a black and white checkerboard floor, which stands for a soul that's bumbling around between the light and the dark. It hasn't really polarized yet and made its choice. I'm going to be a good human being, or I'm going to be a poor human being. Same reason why they got, the police cars are checkerboard black and white.
It's an endless ping pong game of the conscience.
Right. They're basically saying you're lost because you haven't figured out what the difference between, good, natural law, meaning you're a moral human being, or you're an immoral piece of garbage. So if you're bouncing around between that, you're basically spiritually dead. So that's why they put it on the floor, because they're very aware spiritually. They've just chosen the dark and they've polarized. But if you haven't chosen and you're still a black and white, then they just walk all over you because they've polarized one way. So either you're black or you're white, or you're a checkerboard on the floor where you're getting your head trampled on because you don't know what's going on. You're lost. So you're better off being polarized evil than being checkerboard. That's in their eyes.
That's how they stay in control, is that checkerboard square business. I've got to have you back on. I think what we need to do is maybe do like a Sunday one where we can talk for about an hour and a half. But I've got to cut this because I've got to go. I want to keep your identity secret at this point for obvious reasons. I'm out in the open, and you're not. I need to keep you protected. But maybe this Sunday we can have you back on and go in a little deeper into all of this, because for 45 minutes here we've jumped around a lot. Would that be something you're willing to do?
Absolutely.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Fullerton Informer, P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. You're going to hear stuff on this show that you're never going to hear anywhere else. And things are going to be explained and tied together in ways that are dangerous to the demonic scum that seek to destroy and enslave us, folks. All right? So I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight, or this afternoon, or this morning, wherever you are when you see this. And share this video, mirror it, download it, make DVDs, hand them out to all your friends. Get this information out far and wide. We must put out love and courage and decency and honesty and stop feeding these demonic vipers their caviar. This is Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, signing off. Thank you for tuning in, folks. Stay safe and please stay on the straight and narrow. God bless.